Alright, so this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. So just to see something like this be a reality, it's an amazing feeling. To make it this far in Thracia 776, the hardest Fire Emblem game, finally able to do it. I'm just kind of, concentrating on just on the feel right now, fighting the final boss Veld and all that. Like, I know a lot of people were watching all the stuff from with the I'm sorry, I'm kind of speechless right now because of all this. Wow, wasn't fast enough for that. But I played Genealogy of the Holy War so many times, made a plot summary video series just joking about it. Finally playing the midquel. I've played it a couple times, but I always got stuck around, say, the Thracia chapter, the Misha chapter when you're trying to recruit her. And now here I am, just a few swings away from beating the game. My gosh, it's just... I'm so proud to make it this far. I'm trying to remember what the great bow was. Was that the one that... Let's stick to the brave bow. Well, since we're here, might as well show off my army. Yeah, I know, I cheesed it. Arena scroll... arenas abuse, scroll abuse. But, in a game like this, where it tries to screw you over, I think you just have as much right to screw it back. I mean, look at Marty. I don't even know how this happened, but it did. He is the most powerful man in all of Yggdrasil, and he's supposed to be a joke character. Yes, that's something else I did. I actually got Xavier. And here's a little guide for you. Step 1, get your sleep staves. Step 2, get your Hammern ready. Step 3, just spam that sleep stave. And that's how you get Xavier. Then, of course, chose the Forsetti route. And there'll probably be people wanting me to do a plot summary for Thracia because of the genealogy. I don't argue against that. Wow, I beat Veld with Robert of all people. But yeah, for those who don't know, the midquel Thracia 776 takes place a little bit before Chapter 6 of Genealogy starts, all the way to the near end point of... Oh crap, I have to take the throne still. Well, that's great. But, what was I saying? To the near end point of Chapter 8. And it is... I'm still awestruck that I made it this far in this game, and let me tell you, sometimes it really did feel like a chore. For the hardest chapters, of course, the Thracia defense chapter, the what's the word I'm thinking of? I hate when I can't think. Of course, you can the freaking Fog of War chapter where you have to get Salem before dawn breaks. Then, of course, the guided chapter afterwards where you get Karn and Tina. And here's a little fun fact for those who don't know. Do not kill the dancers in that chapter. And while you're at it, get to a certain spot where the staircase is near the lower right. Wait till around chapter 20. Turn 20, sorry. Turn 20. And boom, you'll see dancers carrying some very valuable items like a Master Scroll. Get those. And that'll be what you need, mainly. This guy's... I don't know about you, but I found that funny. The Berserk Staff. I didn't even have to use the Stone Staff at all. You know, the Kaya Staff to take on the Stone effect. Mainly due because it's so good at taking out the enemy. Oh, she wants to move again. There's nothing else to do. I'm gonna make a save so I remember this. Boom. Seize. And there you go. So this is my first time seeing it too, so I'm gonna take this in. should interrupt a bit with some of that. Finn, as much as I joked about him, he's, in my opinion, one of the best characters in Fire Emblem history in terms of just character. He is the definition of loyalty, persistence, perseverance. Refuses to give up in insurmounting odds, or insurmountable, I'm sorry, but Finn is one of my favorite characters of all time. He is probably the closest in the pre-Kaga days of one of the most in-depth characters that Fire Emblem had before we had the likes of Hector, Ike, Dimitri. And he's not even a main character, that's what makes it so amazing. Well, he's a main character here, but like in the scheme of things, he's not a lord. I should be more specific. It's great to see Leaf and all that. And when it gets to the credits, I'll explain a bit more on some of my opinions on some of the units. Marita the Wingman. I never thought I'd see that. I gotta say, it's kind of funny from what I've seen of Fire Emblem Heroes. Marita is the most used character for the Thracia characters that are in the game. I think it would be... I don't know. Now that I think of it, like with Thracia, it is the lowest, like, the most obscure of the Fire Emblem games because of the whole... It was on a digital service, the Nintendo Power they had in Japan, and it wasn't until a couple months after the games they got its own limited edition cartridge. And it's just... to finally see it, and all that. Especially when it came to translations. It's like, there were so many translation attempts over the years, and most of them were always broken. And of course, there was that whole Project Exile and Little Manster controversy, which I think, just overall, that's just overblown. And just, like, I get it, you made the script, but if someone just gives a revision of it, that's not plagiarism, in my opinion, when it comes to fan translations. But at the same time, like, you know, if you want to give credit, give credit. Oh look, Self is here. But yeah, so I'm not going to be proud of these turns. I'm the guy who doesn't play based on ranks and all that. I just want to play the game and have fun. But yeah, like Manster arc, that's definitely the chapters that can make or break players when they play this game, especially chapter 4. I'm still impressed that I managed to get through chapter 6 that easily, but of course, you know, I saw an arena, and of course, chapter 9, I mean, they give me under-leveled units, I had to, you know, make them good. And of course, chapter 11, the famous meme, Stupid Bitch by Kempf, which got changed in the recent updates, if I recall. It's been a while since I last played the chapter, but yeah, I think it did. And of course, chapter 14, that is a gauntlet. You better be prepared, don't send Dulcin out or you're screwed. And then of course, chapter 16 went the fort route, because I'd rather fight that way than go through the staff abuse forest with the fog of war. Managed to get... Yeah, I'm just... This the whole Xavier. And then, of course, the prison camp. My only prisoner was Marty. Saving Private Marty, I call him. Yeah, I know it's a bad joke, but, you know. Look at that. The final chapter, 7 turns. That feels good. And there's a little Thracian peninsula with the big Thracia river just protruding out. Oh no, an E for excellent. Now let's take a look at our characters and the artwork. Yeah, I know the artist, I can't remember her name, but when Shozo Kaga left Intelligent Systems, she went with for the Barrick Saga and Tear Ring Saga artwork and all that. Yeah, when it came to the... Just overall, when it comes to the Fire Emblem continents, the ones with the overall most detail... Oh yeah, Sachiko Wada, still with Intelligent Systems. Does a lot of artwork, especially during the GBA era. Basically, when it comes to like the all-around best artist in terms of longevity, she is the answer for the Fire Emblem series, and of course, Yuka Tsujiyoko. I mean, you can't really say anything negative about her. She makes some of the best music on the Super Nintendo with Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia. Heck, even on the N64 with Paper Mario, some good songs there too. You know, when it comes to the special thanks, we need more games where they say special thanks to you, the player. It's a nice feeling. But as I was saying with the continents, Yggdrasil, Tellius are definitely the most well-defined, you know, detailed continents. With Fodlan's pretty well detailed, I would say. Of course, Leaf, you need him throughout the entire game. Must-have unit. He'll struggle a bit, but he'll still do good in the long run. And then when you use him in Genealogy and he becomes a Master Knight, he is a force of nature. And even funnier, in Engage, when it comes to the emblem rings and all that, Leaf gets to be an emblem but not Seliph, so this game predicted the future and just how great Leaf would be. That's Altena, and I take it Arione is the betrothed to Altena. I mean, of course, this game was like, oh, but it's like arranged with Linowin. It's like, nah. Genealogy is more canon than Thracia, let's be honest. I mean, yeah, it's just weird because you think about it, those two holy bloods were related. And like, just overall, the Yggdrasil plays Crusader Kings 2 very well when it comes to hereditary pushes, and of course, Finn, you need him. And of course, that Brave Lance of his, if you're doing any capturing, you need the Brave Lance with Finn. Must have one of the best units in the game right here. And of course, the whole looking for Lachesis little thing. Nana is a staff bot, but her Earth Sword is very useful. In case of under attack, the Earth Sword very useful because of the Nosferatu effect. But basically, she's a healer, nothing more, nothing less. But if you get her staff rank up a lot, she will be very useful when it comes to the Berserk staff, the Sleep staff, the Silence staff, just any and all staffs, because those, you need those to beat the game. Of course, Avel, she's very useful in the early part of the game when she's playable. Of course, the whole stories about being Bridget and all that from genealogy. Yeah, like right there. There's that whole little blood pact with the dragons, what they said, the gaze. You basically get a second life, but with some consequences. Like with Lewin, in genealogy, he basically loses his emotions. And Marita, she starts under-leveled, but you can make her do good. I mean, she's in a chapter with axe users, and she's a sword. And with her speed is very good to start off for level 2. She'll be very useful in the long run. But Avel, very useful and all that. And of course, people joke that how Shozukaga, like how everyone apparently has a waifu when it comes to developers. Shozukaga's was obviously Bridget/Avel as a joke. And I could definitely see why. I mean, he really put a lot into her. I think before that was probably Minerva. He really likes his tough girls, his femme fatales. Alvin, he's good, he's just not Orson good. There's a reason why Orson is in Fire Emblem Heroes while Halvin isn't yet. But the Brave Axe, very good. The Vantage skill he gets, very good. He's definitely a good, steady unit to have, and of course, Orson is the best axe user in the game. Poogie, or Vosge, whatever you want to call it now. It's great. People joke about how axes were never good in Fire Emblem, and then Orson comes along and makes everyone like an axe unit. FE1, Daros, Barst, Rest, Board, and Cord were all just crap. The closest to a good unit would be Samson. Gaiden, no playable axe units. Genealogy, there's only one good axe, and it's the Brave Axe. Silver Axe is only good if you have Pursuit. And Tanya, oh my gosh, Tanya was not good. She is not a good archer. That's all I can say about her. She's just not good. And next up is Marty. Oh no, Dagdar. Not yet, but Dagdar. Very, very much needed. You need him for capturing units at the beginning. And then, of course, people say, oh, he's got bad gross and all that. His bases are good enough where you can use them all the way to the end game. Because a lot of units, believe it or not, it's mainly the boss battles where they can, you know, have the better stats than Dagdar. And then Marty, you'll need him too, but he's just a dollar store Dagdar. I highly don't recommend this guy. And yet, of course, if you throw every scroll on him, he could somehow become a juggernaut, which is just funny thinking about. You could say that with every unit, actually, that they could become unstoppable with a little scroll abuse. But yeah, Marty's basically the Arden of Thracia in terms of just being a joke character. Then Ronan. I didn't have a good Ronan. If you throw some strength and some scrolls such as the Hazul or the whatnot to give him a better stat for strength, he'll become decent. But in the end, not that good. But with that magic, and you know what you're doing with giving him some strength, he'll become a good mage killer archer. But Saphia here, staff user, so already by default 10 out of 10. And she has a high ranking in staffs. 10 out of 10. Would use again. Then Shiva, he's a good sword unit. His soul skill will be very useful. He's got a good sword rank, good bases. Yeah, I would highly recommend using him. Yeah, just like the every other stereotypical swordmaster. You've left and was never seen or heard from again and all that stuff. Lithus, he's a very useful thief, but his main weakness is his poor luck and constitution. If you get the right stuff to fix that, you'll actually be very good for capturing too. But like when it comes to, you know, thieves, you need a thief, and he's a much needed thief until you get a far better thief later on. It's kind of funny how a lot of the Fire Emblem games, it's the second thief that's usually better than the first thief, such as Astolfo and, man, what was his name? Legault for the other games. But of course, Fergus, sword user, he's good. You'll probably, you know, Chapter 8, you're probably not going to be able to use him. You know, because of all the battles that you went through the whole Manster arc. The Great Escape. Fergus, though, he's a good steady hand to have, especially when you give him the Brave Sword. Karen, I know I got a buddy, Radrex. When we were playing Thracia once, he left Karen behind and pretended she never existed. But if he knew anything, he would know that Karen is a very, very good unit to have. And that one loss was when she was captured. Got everything back though. Karen is one of the best flyers in the game, hands down. You need her. Of course, Zed. I mean, he has Forseti, or Holseti, whatever you want to call it, the best tome in the game and probably in all of Fire Emblem. 10 out of 10. He will be very useful in the final chapters. Also, he has a very good staff rank. He's just all around and much needed. Asbel, he's a good starter mage, but the second you promote him, because the Sage promotion, the Sage promotes, the stat gains you get for promoting a Sage are very good. And you don't even have to do anything with Asbel after that except give him a heal and mend, and boom. You're just a great little staff bot. Asbel, very useful unit. Definitely use. Oh my gosh, Bryden, he's only good for the Manster Escape arc. After that, he just falls behind all around. His luck is just awful. But, like, if you need just a replacement unit to help out here and there, he can help out. He gets a wife. I wonder who his wife is. Here's a hint. Oh, wait. There's the hint already. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They had that whole support. They debut in the same chapter. It makes sense. Bryden and Machua are the all-around. And Machua is far better than Bryden. And also, she's the first female hero in this entire series. All-around good unit in comparison. If I recall, she even has the Vantage skill while Bryden has Wrath. Bryden's main strength is definitely in Wrath. Then Lara, as a thief, all she can do is pick locks and steal vulneraries, master seals. But the second you switch her to a dancer, 10 out of 10 unit. Would just keep playing your 80s new wave, whatever type of music you got. Play your discos, your massage parlors, all that type of stuff. Boom, Laura's unstoppable as a thief turned dancer. She could still steal as a dancer too, so that's even better. Dulcin, well, he carries an axe. Bench juice, basically. Not that good when it comes to his skill, speed, luck, and of course magic stat. But then again, nearly every physical unit has bad magic stat. Basically, you throw skill, like with Marty, you throw scrolls on him to make him good. And as the game goes on, more and more enemy units will have hammers. So it's just don't use him. Basically, he's only good for the escape chapters, and that's it. Now, Hicks, I'm gonna say it, Hicks is the real Great Knight you want compared to Bryden. It's far better in every way. The only flaw is he cannot support anyone. And also with his poleaxe that he starts with, that chapter when you're being chased by the Paladin General, the general that's a Paladin. Use him to take him out, boom, easy. Glade, his main strength is his one authority star to help you out. Great lance rank. When it comes to indoor chapters, he's stuck with an iron sword. Basically, outdoor chapters is his strength, and of course, the very first Choose Your Legends, I believe, for Fire Emblem Heroes, he was the lowest voted all time. So it's a kind of a meme that he is the most forgotten unit in Fire Emblem history. I mean, look at the bags under his eyes. He's tired of that joke, too. The Glade is basically a poor man's Finn. He's still useful, just not as good as Finn. Selfina, she has some good skills, but it's very weak archer compared to Robert. But the difference is with Robert, you have to train him far more than Selfina. So kind of by default, she is most definitely the best bow user in the game, unless you recruit Xavier, because he gets an A rank bows. And it's just funny that an armored unit can be the best bow user, now that I think of it. Yeah, Zelfine is definitely better than Ronan and Tanya as a bow user, but it seems to happen a lot, where an archer, the second they get on horseback, many people just basically say they are the better bow user. Like, say, Wrath and Will. Will might get better stats on average, according to that Serena's Forest averages. But 9 times out of 10, everyone's just going to stick with Wrath because of the mobility, and also much better at getting strength. And Kane, just like with Alva and Robert, underleveled, you have to basically baby them to be good, but they can be very good. Of course, Kane and Alva are the Cain and Abel for this game, and are most definitely the most forgotten units, because if I recall, they were basically made as a you, the player, self-insert, instead of, like, say, how, like, say, Byleth or Robin are the self-inserts. These were the self-inserts. I kind of prefer that, because the self-insert characters are basically taking over the main character spot in the series, and it kind of gets a little out of hand. Like, say, with New Mystery, the Chris unit, yeah, very good unit and all that, but at the same time, was taking more spotlight away from Marth in Marth's game. And Alba, basically just the same as Kane, but from what I've seen, Kane is going to be the far better unit overall on average compared to Alba, but I'm not going to say Alba's bad. I wonder if the music's going to loop or it just stops. I swear if it stops, that's funny. Robert, though, you baby him and he'll be the best bow user in the game. But there we go, it's looping. Music's looping. Oh, look, yeah, he's definitely a self-insert for the player. Look at that. Social awkwardness. The women liked him because he was hard to get. That's totally how it works. Callion, oh man. He kind of screwed him over a bit because he starts in a axe-heavy chapter with a lance. And not just any lance, a steel lance, which weighs him down. It screws him over. But of course, the chapter after that, if you don't do the Gaiden, talk to Selfina, you get the Paragon Sword, and it helps him out a lot. Overall, though, he's a good, steady hand to have, just in a B tier compared to an A tier for mounted units. Olwen, you have to baby, because when it comes to the pre-promotes, she is very weak in terms of stats. But her Dire Thunder, very useful. Overall, though, I'd say she's... I would say you probably should just kill her off to get Ilios. Ilios has the better base stats at the start, better growth rates overall. I think they actually have the same growth rates, but because of those bases, even if Olwen's at the same level as him, Ilios will turn out to be the better Mage Knight. Alfred, he has good bases. Paladin that can do magic actually well. I would say he's worth it. I'd probably pick him over Callion in the long run. Oh, look at that. He marries Olwyn and people joke about how old he is. And Parn, whatever you want to call him, best thief in the game. Those little movement stars help him out a lot. He gets the better skills, stats, all that, compared to Lithus. And overall, though, he's actually the most ambiguously gray character in the series, because he practices slavery, but yet he saved Tina from slavers. It's almost similar to, say, in American history, Zachary Taylor. He owned slaves, but he did everything in his power to prevent the expansion of slavery, even going as far as making sure that California was a free state as a middle finger to the slaveholders. And then, of course, when the Compromise of 1850, he said, "You give that to me, I'm vetoing it." Trude, he's he's a replacement unit. He could be good, but he's just not as good as Shiva or Marita in the long run. Salem, the first dark magic user in the game. Don't use him for combat. His skills are not good for combat. But for staff usage, he's a good staff bot. Very good staff bot, especially with his con. He's like one of the few staff users that's bulky. And of course, is Salem Witch Trials, all that. Nice little reference. Tina is staff bot. Never even let her touch combat. Her main flaw, though, is her skill stat and skill growth. I probably got screwed over when it came to skill, but when I promoted her, at the end of the game, she had 3 skill. And that can really annoy you when you're trying to get, like, say, the steel or the unlock staff usage, and it's like, oh, no, miss. Screw you, game. Linowin is I guess you could say, kind of like an Est. It's got good magic usage. You go to that church in chapter 21, I believe it is, or 22. Promotes a sage, turns her into a force of nature. And of course, it's got very good staff usage. So look at that, she never married. So yeah, the Arion Bowl is still going, and it looks like Altina's winning, to the shock of no one and the confusion of their children. Like, wait, you're related? What the fuck? And Dean, the second best flyer in the game, I would say. Very strong, very able. Also, you get that Dragon Pike. Hard to get, but, you know, if you warp him and rescue him immediately, problem solved. Second best flyer in the game. I take it next up is going to be Ada. Yet surprisingly, Ada, because of me being the jerk that Scroll abuses, she capped every stat except Constitution. And yet, despite that, I think I brought her in for the Endgame chapter. I don't remember anymore, because, you know, it's like, what, 40 minutes ago? But Ada is basically an Est unit in the terms of just very low level. Throw a bunch on her, try to baby her, she will end up being decent. But in the end, just stick with Dean. You don't have to invest in Dean compared to Ada. Then Homer. Just a magic user. You can promote him, he can put up staff bot. That's mainly him then. He's just basically say you need to have a primary magic user that has minor staff in comparison to a major staff minor magic for a chapter, and Asbel is exhausted and you don't want to use a stamina drink, that's Homer. Ralph exists. He's a hero unit, but he is inferior to Matcha. Basically, what's the best way of saying it? You know, like how you have Diek in FE6, and then you have Ogier or Auger, whatever you want to call him. Ralph is the Auger. He's the backup in case something bad happens to Matcha, or Machua. See, that's the thing, there's too many names for all of these translations, and then the FE Heroes has their own versions, where they get the most Nordic or Celtic name possible. Like how Noish became Nauis or whatnot. Like, look at this. This is supposed to be Sloof. Now he's Shroff. Great staff bot unit. He has a rank staff at the second you get him, if I recall, or B rank. His alternate, because if you take the forced route, you don't get him. You get Miranda, who is basically like Nino. Very low level, very low bases, and when you promote her, she's a mage knight, which isn't as useful in the long run compared to a sage or priest. Amalda is basically another version of Nana, except she comes with an authority star. I highly recommend getting Amalda over Connemore, just based on the ability that she can heal while Connemore does not. But like say Sloof and Amalda, it's either them or you get Connemore Miranda, sorry. In the end though, Amalda Sloof is the better choice. Then Misha, she is a little tricky to recruit. Talk to her with Karen and then Sleep Staff. Or Sleep Edge if you manage to steal one of those in the chapter before. And then capture her and keep her captured for the entire chapter. And of course that chapter is difficult because Sias comes along and says, hey, do you think these guys are a little too hard trying to fight them with all those, those lopto mages and all that? Well, watch what happens when I give them plus 30 attack, plus 30 hit and plus 30 avoid for 5 turns. It's a middle finger. But I mean, 5 turns, it makes it fair at least, compared to the I'm there for the rest of the game. And Xavier, he is the best armored unit in the game. He's got some good skills with, if I recall, Accost and Wrath. A rank and bow, so you can make him your primary bow user. A rank axes. He could bring lances indoors, but of course it's an E rank, so he can't really do much. Overall, though, probably wouldn't recommend picking Xavier because he's not as worthwhile as the difficulty it takes, but he's the most difficult unit to get. It takes forever. Dermot, he's a horseman. He's got great bases, great gross. You would be a fool not to use Dermot. Just like you would be a fool not to use him in FE4. But back to Xavier. With all that work to get him, it doesn't feel like it's worth it. Galzus, he's basically there to make sure that you beat the game. He's got great stats, great A rank in axes and swords. You gotta use him. The only problem is he's only around for basically 3 chapters. If you get the Kaya staff. Sarah is another staff user highly recommended. She also has the ability to do some attack stuff too, just like with Linowin, ability to attack and heal before promotion. Also, you need her for the final chapter, based entirely on the Kaya staff. Because you don't want your units to turn into stone. That's a bit abrupt. Thought there'd be a little something at the end there after all that. But no, we just get to look at the name of the best character in Yggdrasil history, Finn. So yeah, would I recommend Thracia 776? Only if you know what you're doing. In other words, you know how to abuse the game. You know how to fight back. You know how to say, oh, you think I can twist my nipples? I'll twist you back. I'll even slap your ass while I'm at it. Basically, you have to be just as hard on this game as it is to you. That is the type of game Thracia 776 is, and like what I felt when I beat this game, it felt like a reward. I felt like I completed something worthwhile. Like how some of the games, it feels like when you beat them, it feels like a chore. I don't think so with this game. But yeah, it feels good. And now you see this again, and you're just going like, yeah, I did that. Just all of that, just seeing the artwork again. Hard to believe this is one of the last hurrahs on the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom before it was officially just done. It's kind of crazy how with the N64 it wasn't being seen as favorably as compared to the Super Nintendo at the time frame of, say, 96, 97. They were still making Super Nintendo games. Kind of like how when the PS1 and PS2 were still making games when, you know, their successors came out. Like the PS2 made games for 13 years. The Super Nintendo, a whole decade. But let me tell you, it's a nice little last hurrah. Kind of like how Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii was a great last hurrah. So yeah, that's Thracia, and I feel like I did a good job today. Alright, well, sometime in the future there will be a plot summary of Thracia. It will take a while, but it will be done. Until then, have a good night, everybody.